It's not about, growing past who you are. It's not about, letting go of everything that makes you who you are, but it's recognizing the beautiful things and then kind of moving into that healthy space of balance.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Career Brand Story, a podcast that provides expert career coaching every week. I'm Christie Tudor, and on today's show, we're diving deeper into the Enneagram. Last week, we looked at numbers 1, 8, and 9, and those are a part of the gut and body triad that respond with physical instinct and body and the emotion of anger.
Very angry triad.
Very angry. Today, we're going to talk about numbers 2, 3, and 4, and they're part of the heart triad and respond with personal identity and values and the emotion of shame. And next week, we'll go through the final numbers 5, 6, and 7. They're part of the head triad, and they respond with knowing and support and the emotion of anxiety. So the Enneagram is a wonderful approach to understanding yourself more and approaching life more wholeheartedly. That's why we're focusing our time in this as we've been talking about know yourself more during this season and this last month. It's Christmas time, so if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see we got a little Christmas cheer going on. And I'm happy to welcome back Christie Tudor, Chief of Culture at Career Brand Story and an Enneagram guide, and Jeb Graff. He's a commercial photographer and creative consultant. How you guys doing?
I'm good.
It's always like we're always battling about who's going to go first. I think that's a Zoom thing because we're not in the same room. We can't read body language. That's what I'm blaming it on, not just being awkward.
Well, you and I hold back.
That's true. We're like, after you. No, after
you go.
You go. No, you're the one that goes next.
That's also after 30 minutes of pre-show setup and rushing around and getting here and Jeb waiting patiently on us. So
I've got emails to write, y'all.
Don't worry. December 31st is coming, and everybody knows what happens on December 31st with emails.
Oh, right.
They magically delete.
Thrown away.
Yeah, it's a national holiday. You just delete them all and start the new year fresh. I really think that should be a policy in all corporations.
I do too. I think that's really good career advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody starts fresh. January 1.
No one's really going to question you that much about it.
I think it's fair.
If it's important, they'll call. It's my motto.
Yeah. So, well, we really are excited to dive in. I think the last conversation around 1, 8, and 9 were really fun. Of course, Jeb and I are 8 and 9, so we got to talk about us. But this week we get to talk about you, Christie, because we're going to talk about the 4s.
Yay! It's a mixed bag.
Yeah. So why don't you kick things off?
All right. Well, I'm so happy to be here, and I am excited to talk about the heart feeling triad. I love that triad. I did want to say a shout out to my Enneagram teacher, Hunter Mobley, and also the work of Suzanne Stabile, Ian Cron, Casey Berghoff, and Melanie Bell. Their work has been so helpful and insightful as I've been learning. As we go through the Enneagram numbers, I do want you to remember that there's beauty and value in each number. Each number has its own unique way of seeing and responding to the world with its own set of strengths and challenges. There is no bad or less desirable number, and no number is without its challenges. Remember, as you discover your number, to focus on your underlying motivations and not just the stereotype or behaviors. The person who can best discern your number is yourself and not your friends or family. It's important that you practice self-compassion and non-judgmental self-awareness as we go through the Enneagram numbers. As humans, it's easy for us to zero in on the negative aspects and dismiss the positive strengths. I hope that in learning the Enneagram, that it'll foster growth, balance, and a compassion for yourself and others. So a few just reminders of key Enneagram words as we go through the numbers are that we have 9 core numbers, which is 1 through 9. And then there are 2 possible wings for everyone's core number. and you may resonate strongly with one particular wing. You may drift back and forth depending on the context or the season of life you're in. But your core motivation will always be that of your core number and not from your wing. The 9 Enneagram types can be divided into groups. One of those groups is called stances. And the stances describe how Enneagram types similarly respond to other people. It can also be a really great way to help you narrow in on your number if you're having trouble. Once we've gone through all the 9 numbers, if you're still just not sure, one way is to think about the stances because it can kind of help you rule out a couple of groups. So the first one is Enneagram numbers 3, 7, and 8 move independently or against others, and they're referred to as the aggressive or independent stance. The Enneagram numbers 1, 2, and 6 move toward others and are referred to as the dependent or compliant stance. And Enneagram numbers 4, 5, and 9 are those who move away or withdraw from others and are referred to as the withdrawing stance.
Withdrawal gang.
Yes. And Jeremy would be in the independent.
I am. I'm very independent.
Yes.
Super independent.
And then the other group, which is how we're dividing our Enneagram episodes, is the dominant intelligence center. And that refers to the groupings, the body triad, the heart triad, and the head triad. So today, again, we're talking about the heart and feeling triad, numbers 2, 3, and 4. So I kind of wanted to give a different illustration. Last time we talked about all of us headed to Pizza Hut, and that was kind of a fun illustration. Today we're going to talk about these numbers in terms of a party. So when we're going to this party, we're going to meet 3 people, but we want to focus on the underlying motivation, not just the behaviors. So we have the Enneagram 2 that comes into the house and after greeting everyone, heads into the kitchen to help wherever is needed, usually carrying a few dishes or items they brought to contribute. Maybe a much requested casserole or flowers for the host. They may get stuck in the kitchen talking to somebody and will usually stick around until the very end to help clean up. So I think that one is usually people know somebody that's like that.
And you should have those people at your parties because they'll clean up for you.
No kidding. Wait, what number did you
I'm
say
going to
that was?
sit down right now, but you go ahead.
So that's the Enneagram 2. And that's kind of like, yeah. So that's the picture of the classic mom. So my mom is actually a 2. And yeah, there's every party she heads straight to the kitchen. And she's always got like tons of stuff that she's bringing to help.
Got the casserole.
Yeah, even if she's not hosting.
Christy,
so,
we think your mom's a 10.
She is a 10. Mom, you're a 10.
That's right.
And then we meet the Enneagram 3. And the Enneagram 3 is in the living room where the party is. The 3 has captured the room, captivating everyone with a charming story and witty jokes. The 3 is radiant in an almost effortless way, smartly dressed for the occasion. The 3 will intentionally connect with key people in the room, networking naturally. So the 3 has a knack for heading into the party, and they have a type of just almost aura. Like when they walk in, people notice, and they're just kind of magnetic people. So you want 3 at a party. And then the last character that we meet is the Enneagram 4. And the Enneagram 4 has found a spot out of the way in a cozy corner of the room and is either looking intently at a painting, staring off into space, maybe listening to music, or having a deep conversation with somebody. The 4 will hang back and let people come to them. The 4 has their own unique sense of style. It may not be, necessarily a punk style or something that's, just completely obvious, but they have their own unique just way. And after a few meaningful interactions, they may quietly slip away out the back.
Where'd she go?
Yeah.
Anyone seen her? What happened?
We missed an opportunity here to jump on the stereotype and like set Christie's mic up and stuff in a corner. We could have. And
I should have been wearing all black.
Yeah, we could have shown like a really wide shot with like just Christie really small in the corner.
This reminds me of the time I threw her a surprise birthday party, and Christie was nowhere to be found, hiding in the house.
Well, that's
Having
the
a
surprise.
panic attack.
Yeah.
So lesson learned, don't throw surprise parties for 4s.
I don't know. There may be some that love it, but yeah, for me, that was not maybe the best. But okay, so we're going to start with our first party goer, the Enneagram 2. The Enneagram 2 is known as the helper. So we're going to give you a few ideas of what it feels like to be a 2. I'm a people person. I feel most at home connecting with others and being with others. I don't really enjoy being alone. 2, I need to be needed. People know me as a people person that they can count on, who is always there to help. I like being known as the helper. I have a really hard time saying no. I am a great listener. Even strangers find it easy to share things with me. I can be very emotional. Some think my feelings are a little over the top. I love to host and create welcoming spaces for my family and for others. If I'm not hosting, I'm usually helping others to host. I care a lot about what people think. I want people to see me as helpful, warm, and loving. I feel a lot for people, but I'm not always sure exactly how I feel personally. I love to sense and meet others' needs, but I'm not sure what I need. I am much more comfortable giving than receiving. I'm not good at communicating it, but I really want acknowledgement and affirmation for my contributions. When I'm tired, I begin to feel taken for granted and unappreciated. I start to feel like people love me just for what I can do for them or give them. I love remembering details and giving the perfect gift. I hate relational conflict. I will work hard to overcome misunderstandings.
So something with reading these lists, because I was talking to one of our listeners the other week, and they were like, oh, well, after they saw the artwork from Lauren Phoenix, they were like, oh, well, I resonate more with that number, even though they really had said off show that they were a different number.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, as we read these lists, not to go off a rabbit trail, but just it's right that you're going to connect with different things in all the different numbers because there's a balance to it.
Yes, absolutely. That's a really good point.
So I guess I just want to encourage listeners. It's like, if you seem to resonate with like last week's number, and then all of a sudden you're now starting to resonate with this, you really need to listen all the way through till we get through all the numbers, because there's going to be one that really speaks to you.
Yes, absolutely. So with all of the lists, even like with, 8, 9, and 1, there will be certain things, that, like we all kind of resonate with. So like even in this list, I'm not a 2, but, I don't like conflict either. So,
Right.
So we'll talk about motivation. So definitely listen in for the motivations, but just kind of listen as the total snapshot. A good key that you found your number is when you feel like someone has kind of read your mail or read your journal, that it just kind of hits deep. So kind of look out for that. Oh, and I did want to show the Lauren Phoenix's Enneagram 2.
It's a 2.
Artwork.
Yes. And our winner has been chosen because that giveaway was up on November 30th. So the winner will be announced this week. I don't even know who it is. Abby, our social media marketer, has chosen the winner, and she'll be announcing it this week.
Yay.
So you'll be hearing from Lauren Phoenix about your prize.
So I should be getting my wall art anytime now.
Well, unfortunately, because you're a producer of the show, tiny print, you're excluded from all games and prizes.
Joke's on you, pal. I had my fingers crossed when I signed the contract.
I'll send you some wall art.
Thank you.
All right. So Enneagram 2, the helper, the key motivation is to connect with others through loving, mutually nurturing relationships. We'll meet other people who, like to make, contacts or relationships for certain reasons. But the key to this one is that they want a loving, mutually nurturing relationship. So that warm connection.
So the 2s tend to have like a close knit of friends or a lot of friends? Or is that even a thing?
I would say both. if you think about like my mom, she has her people. So maybe more close. They care a lot about their family and their close friends, and their bandwidth. They're constantly showing up for people. So at some point, I guess they can't be there for the entire world. Right. So they may have to narrow in on who they've decided are their people or their tribe.
Yeah. So what are they afraid of?
Their core fear is being unwanted or unworthy of love.
That one hits.
Makes sense? Mm-hmm. Their stance, again, is... actually, I did want to throw this out there. So I mentioned 2 groupings. I mentioned the stances, which is how you relate to people. And then your intelligence center, which is how you first respond to the world. So your stance, there's 3 stances: the independent aggressive, the dependent, which moves towards people, or the withdrawing, which moves away from people. So today we're going to, each one of the numbers has a different stance, if you notice. So they all are in the feeling triad, but number 2 is dependent. So they move towards people in life. Their talk style is help and advice, which, really, I don't know, it kind of completes the picture of the mom. But even if they aren't the mom, they can sometimes be the mom of the group, like the mom of their friend group or whatever.
Shout out to teen moms.
Yes, we need you. But actually, and what we'll learn through this is that there's healing messages for each of the numbers. And because 2s constantly kind of feel that compulsion to help and feel that draw to be needed, it's a really encouraging message for us to kind of not just say, yes, we need you, but to remind them we love you. We love you just for yourself. One quote that I found in The Road Back to You says, when 2s walk into a room full of people, their attention immediately goes to how are you doing? What do you need? What are you feeling? And most importantly, what do you want? They are so in tune and responsive to other people's pain, you'd sometimes think they're psychic. Wow. For me, with my mom, she just has a knack. Like if I'm not okay, like I can't be in the same room with her. Like if I'm wanting to keep it on a DNO, I can't do that. I mean, even on the phone, she, even if I'm not like actively crying or actively upset, like she can just sense it. Yeah. So, so a few of the behaviors, so a healthy 2, and what you'll notice about all the numbers, when they're at their healthiest, they kind of have some main attributes that basically boil down to balance. They've achieved a more open balance with themselves. A healthy 2 is generous, caring, loving, upbeat, kind, supportive, tenderhearted, non-judgmental, accepting, altruistic, deeply attuned to others, open, empathetic, but they've learned to practice self-love and self-care. And that's a key one, is that that you're dealing with the healthy 2 when they have learned to value themselves, to love themselves, and to practice self-care, because that is a challenge for 2s. An average 2 is warm and friendly. They lean into others, but they can get into people pleasing. They need approval. They're generous, but the generosity is subconsciously with strings attached. So it's very much like they don't necessarily know they're doing it, but they do it with the goal of drawing you in or solidifying that connection. They often have poor boundaries, so it's hard for them to say no. They may not be self-aware because they're so in tune with other people. They're constantly responding to other people's needs that they forget themselves entirely. They sometimes are attracted to powerful people who they look to define them. And they sometimes will fall into using flattery to create connection. Presenting a cheerful, likable image and helping others is their strategy for earning love. For 2s, words of appreciation border on the intoxicating. Expressions of gratitude like, what would I do without you, or you're a lifesaver, make a 2 feel good. I'm talking Justin Bieber just retweeted me good. And that's a quote from Cron and Stabile. So I found that interesting. We all like affirmation. We all love, when people notice the things that we do or, that we feel seen. But it's important to understand just how important this is to twos. Twos are constantly doing things or finding the right gift or whatever for people. And affirmation is just a really, really key thing for them. When we get into the unhealthy space with Enneagram 2s, it goes even further into the codependent area. Needy. They'll start to replace love, like relationships, with actual love, and they'll instead accept just like a basic appreciation, companionship, utilitarian relationships, just as a substitute. They can be manipulative or controlling, overreaching, demanding, and then it goes all the way into becoming kind of a martyr. So, a reminder that this isn't just like, oh, you're an unhealthy 2. We all have this ebb and flow in our lives. That's part of a natural, healthy life. Is you're not just going to, be, necessarily in the average space and then spend your whole life trying to get to that healthy space. Or if you're unhealthy, that's terrible. It's just this natural kind of ebb and flow in, our seasons of life, even in our day. So, like when we go through our day, we may have some really healthy things that we're drawing from our personality type. And then there may be some other things that we kind of sink into an unhealthy space, just naturally. But being aware that this can happen can kind of remind us, and we can start to catch ourselves. So like with 2s, because they give and give and give, they finally overextend themselves and exhaust themselves. So when you find a 2 that is kind of in that martyry, nobody appreciates me, nobody loves me space, you can tell that they have just completely probably neglected themselves. They haven't practiced self-care, and they've just gotten to their exhaustion. So that's the point where they just need a lot of encouragement to kind of stop and, take some space and recharge. The wings of 2s, remember, kind of provide a couple of different flavors of a 2. 2 wing 1 is called the servant. They're concerned with doing things properly. So they have the influence of the 1, the perfectionist. And so they're people, but they have this concern for what's proper, and they can be kind of critical of themselves. Sometimes they may be more controlling or more prone to guilt, but they have clearer boundaries. So the 1 helps them kind of set those boundaries. They're more aware of their emotional needs, but have more trouble expressing them. They are more dutiful and service focused. The 2 wing 3 is the host or hostess. They can be more ambitious, image conscious. So they've taken on the kind of a little bit of the 3, which is what we'll talk about next, the achiever or performer. And so in their relationships, it kind of brings in a little bit more of the person who, cares about what people think and, is image conscious, maybe a little bit more competitive, more extroverted. They're more concerned with relationships and connections, but they can also be confident. They can bring in some of that confidence of the 3. They can be achievement oriented, but they also have to be careful about shape shifting and using charm and flair to engage people.
Shapeshifters.
Yeah, I was going to say, be careful you turn into a chair.
And we'll talk about this more with 3s. We'll kind of explain a little bit more what that's like. But basically, 2s already have the tendency to kind of know themselves in the context of others because they're so others focused. And so, they identify strongly with their people. That's kind of part of their identity. And so when you bring in the wing of the 3, which also does this, you have a person that really knows themselves in relation to what others think. So, it'll be the challenge once we talk about growth, to take a step back to really kind of reflect on yourself. So a few famous twos are Elizabeth Taylor, Eleanor Roosevelt, Nancy Reagan, Dolly Parton.
What?
Yeah, which I think is fun. And I didn't read a lot about it, but I guess she helped with the vaccine.
She donated like $1 million.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
But she's probably a 2 wing 3.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the performance side of her and.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
So I think that's fun that she's a 2.
We live in Tennessee now, and when we got our car license, you could choose to get the Dolly Parton license plate.
You can?
Yeah,
you can.
We didn't because we were cheap.
Yeah, we went with the basic.
But I regret that decision.
Yeah, you need to upgrade.
But this is Dolly Parton land.
Yeah.
You can find anything and everything, shirts, mugs.
You got Dollywood and
ornaments.
Yeah.
So shout out to Dolly.
Yeah, I was going to say, while we're plugging Dolly Parton, Dollywood and everything, I'll say that is a really nice amusement park.
We haven't been.
I've heard it's like super
so.
clean and super nice.
Yeah, it's a goal of ours.
It's a beautiful park. And so, Harbor, my son gets he's in her book club. So he gets like one
She's
book.
done a lot with reading. Yeah.
She's
her
awesome.
life is very fascinating.
We love you, Dolly.
We love you, Dolly.
We hope
Dolly,
you're listening.
If you want to come and drop 120-second worth of career tips on Career Brand Story podcast, we'd love that.
So that's a great example of it too. A few other 2s that we'll mention: Josh Groban, Martin Sheen, Juliette Binoche, Mary Kay Ash, which is Mary Kay Cosmetics, Paula Abdul, and then also Enneagram teachers, Suzanne Stabile, who wrote The Road Back to You with Ian Cron, and Hunter Mobley, my teacher. They're all 2s. So the last thing I wanted to mention on 2s is growth points and challenges. So the healing message for 2s is that you are wanted for yourself as yourself and not because of how you help or what you give. 2s, the challenge is to reflect on your motivation for giving and helping. Remind yourself, if there are strings attached and you deep down hope for a return, that's an investment. Giving without expecting anything in return is love. Practice saying no. Save your energy for intentional relationships and situations you want to show love without expecting anything in return. Practice clearly expressing your needs before you are overextended. Challenge yourself with some time alone. What are your needs and feelings that are not attached to anyone else? Write a short list of self-care ideas. Make it a goal to do one of them this week. What's one act of self-care you could do every day?
That's great.
All right. So moving on to our second party goer, we met earlier in the living room, is our Enneagram 3, the performer or achiever.
So the 2's in the kitchen, doing their work.
Yep. Hustling and bustling,
getting those casseroles warmed up. And the 3's out entertaining people.
Yes, the 3's in the middle of the crowd, and they are telling a story or making people laugh, or, they just have attracted people to them.
They doing that thing where you put your hand under your arm to make noise.
Now, that may sound a little bit more like a 7, but the 3 is very composed usually.
Okay. They're a little more debonair.
Yeah.
So what does it feel to be like a 3? So
a 3, and I, someday my goal is to have all of these numbers be able to read their list, because I think that's really fun. I love making a great first impression when walking into a room. I like to be seen as successful and to be in the company of successful people. I'm very competitive. I don't like to be slowed down or interrupted. I'm a great multitasker and love efficiency. I don't mind cutting corners to accomplish things. I am charming, convincing, and great at spinning things in a positive light. So that one speaks to, like, even if it's kind of a failure, a 3 has the ability to kind of spin it in such a way like, well, maybe it wasn't all bad, or here was the win in it. I love to set goals and make checklists. I feel my best when I accomplish my goals and check off my list. I have a strong drive to be productive. I can be a workaholic and have trouble setting work aside, even on vacation. It's hard for me to talk about or access my feelings. I would rather set that aside to deal with later. I'm very adaptable depending on context, circumstance, and company. I easily shift gears depending on who I'm talking to. I have been told that I'm inspiring. I achieve what I set out to do and inspire others to achieve their potential. Sometimes I feel like a phony. I would rather lead than follow. So their stance is the aggressive independent stance. When they're moving out in the world, they are accomplishing what they want to accomplish, regardless of who's around them. So different than the dependent stance, which the 2 is the dependent stance. The 2 makes plans and only, considers everyone around them. But in the aggressive stance, your energy and your goals are all moving regardless, independently of people, or sometimes even against people. You don't mind that pushback. So the core fear is of being worthless or of no value. So the motivation is to feel valuable and worthwhile. So productivity is a very important thing to a 3. So the core fear would make sense of being worthless. So the talk style is promotion or sales. And I would say 3s out in life, I mean, they are in all careers. They can be successful in anything.
Must be nice. 3s.
Yeah. They have a strong drive. So a healthy 3 is optimistic, resilient, inspiring. They love to set goals and rise to challenges. They're problem solvers, balance their high energy and work ethic with rest and self-care. That's another example of each number finding balance and self-care in their healthiest state. 3s tend to be workaholics and exhaust themselves, just constantly trying to accomplish their goals, check off their list. So when you find a 3 that has managed to balance their work ethic with rest, you know that they're in a healthy space. They feel valuable, which allows them for a kind benevolence. So when you have a secure 3 that knows their worth, it shows this kind of more kind, tender-hearted side of them. They're able to move from being loved for success and accomplishment to a love of true self. So they found that self-love. They have nothing to prove. They're generous, wise, and authentic. So in the average space, it's overachieving, this constant need to achieve and achieve even more, and constantly break personal records, or be the best. They can be workaholics, like I mentioned before, even too much time in the gym, just constantly pushing themselves harder. They can be highly driven. They feel a need to perform. They see love as something to be earned, strive for success, very competitive, confident, image conscious. They fall into being people pleasers, and they can also be social chameleons. So in the average space, they start to kind of get more into, they have a natural ability just in their wiring, and when they approach people, to kind of shift gears very easily. So, if they're talking to one person, they're going to consider their context. And then really without effort, once they switch to the other person, they just kind of switch gears. In a more unhealthy space, they kind of start to become almost different people. It almost kind of seems like, like different personalities in a way. So it's just something to be aware of. And they will start to suppress their feelings because they keep setting them aside. In an unhealthy space, they find failure unacceptable. They're unable to admit mistakes. They feel superior, desperate for attention, deceiving. They can get into kind of pettiness, or mean and vengeful, unaware of true self or true feelings, and focused on status and even becoming narcissistic. So we can kind of see with each number, there's kind of like it's kind of like a spectrum. Like there's our really healthiest, highest attributes. And then, it just kind of falls down the line where, if we just continue to let our personality run away with us and we're not self-aware, then we can find ourselves at the very bottom of some really negative behaviors and habits.
That's one of the things that we've been in my DISC development and training and stuff that they've kind of recently really kind of pushed is that, and I think we talked about this even with the Enneagram, is that there's movement. Mm-hmm. And I like that word when we're thinking and talking about personalities or behaviors with people, because as people we're complex, and to realize that there's movement at any given time and moment. I'm moving one way or the other on things.
Yes.
Self-awareness allows me to bring back and ground myself. So like yesterday we came into the office and Christie said something to me and I snapped back in true 8 form. And I knew immediately, like I had done an 8 thing. I had to get on a call, do my thing. And then I came back, because I needed to move back to the more centered, grounded space and, apologize and, all that stuff. So, but I really, the idea of movement, I think is really important for people to grab onto, because I know you said this a lot, is when you start to go through the Enneagram, and I think again, with any of these assessments and behavioral and personality tools, we focus on the negative so much and start to beat ourselves up. So, if I'm any one of these numbers, but I'm just like reading a 3 and it's like, great, you just called me a narcissist, right? And that doesn't mean that completely.
Yes.
You could move towards that, but there's a movement to it. I just think that's really important to stress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and I probably could have mentioned this at the beginning, along with it being the heart and feeling triad. Jeremy mentioned that all 3 of these numbers respond to shame in different ways. And so because of how we process things as 2s, 3s, and 4s, we can also be very sensitive to criticism. So, everybody, when listening to their number, they hear the good, but kind of like let it go in one ear and out the other, but really kind of take to heart some of the negative parts. But I would say 2s, 3s, and 4s just really feel it deeply. So just kind of be aware of that and make a conscientious decision to just be kind to yourself and remember the positive attributes, and that this is just kind of like a spectrum of behaviors and traits.
And those are like the go-to emotions. Like in my triad, the go-to emotion is anger. And these triads, the go-to emotion is shame. Yes. But we all can experience shame.
Absolutely.
We all can experience anger.
Yeah.
I forget what the third one is, but.
Anxiety.
Anxiety. We can all experience anxiety. Yeah.
So, and I would say that as we're talking about all of this, we go from just not being aware. Like we're not just born self-aware. We don't realize that we're coping in these ways. But once you start to kind of gain some self-awareness and learn these things, then you definitely have to practice self-compassion and kindness, and not just think, beat yourself up for, I've done some of these things. We've all experienced some of these. So in the road back to you, they mention in crafting a persona that will impress and perhaps even help them form relationships with high influence people who can help them get ahead socially or professionally, 3s lose touch with who they authentically are. In time, they so over-identify with their glittering persona that their true self gets lost in their performance. They, along with everyone else, are fooled into believing their false image is who they really are. So if you can hear this with being a 3, 3s are really beautiful. 3s are amazing at achieving and accomplishing. And one of their best qualities is they are an absolute inspiration to everyone around them. They do what they set their mind to doing. And they are a motivation to other people. The call for 3s is to remember yourself. And actually, that's the call of the entire Enneagram, is that we lose ourselves in the ways that we start to respond to the world. We each receive different messages growing up. Even if you had the best childhood, we took in certain messages that we decided we needed to respond in a certain way to survive and thrive in life. And so we fall into these coping mechanisms that we don't even realize are happening. So that kind of is, what explains all of these different Enneagram types and personalities. We all responded differently to our environment. And so a 3 is, adapting and responding to people around them. But you want to remember your true self beyond all of the different hats that you put on for different people to accomplish all of the things you're accomplishing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I did want to kind of shout out to 3s too, that 1s and 3s feel most beat up by the Enneagram. So if you're feeling at this moment kind of sensitive and feeling a little beat up, just know that you're not alone, but also know that every number feels that to some extent. So
except 8s.
And generally
they
speaking,
just ignore the negative.
Yeah, that's true.
There's no negative to an 8.
And generally speaking, it's, at least in American society, it's become pretty popular to throw that word narcissism around. And, you can remind yourself that, what am I trying to say? That using the word narcissism doesn't actually mean necessarily narcissistic personality disorder. Like,
No.
Right.
The actual
we're all on
disorder.
a spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah. My therapist one time talked about a couple of different things like that. And so at the end of it, I said, oh, so you're telling me I am OCD. I am a narcissist. I am
Yeah.
She's like, no, that's not what I'm saying, Jeremy.
Yeah. So, and if you'll notice going through other numbers, there are some of those words. There's, narcissist. I think it was in the 8s.
Yeah, the 8s.
So there's several numbers that appears in. So just remember that when you hear words like that, those are kind of at the bottom of the unhealthy spectrum. And, they don't mean that,
Yeah. Did we talk about the wings for the 3? Did I just miss that? I may have missed that.
No, I think I skipped over it. Okay, so sorry. The 3-wing 2, the 3 takes on some of the influence of the 2, the helper, and they're called the charmer. They're more outgoing, love motivating and inspiring others. So they're very others oriented. They're skilled at being the face of things. They're charming, intimate, and they want to be stars. They embody characteristics to be seen as more loving, generous, and kind. So they care very much about, who's around them and, how they're perceived. But they also lean into using those skills to motivate and inspire others. So the 3-wing 4 is called the professional. They're more reserved and polished. They enjoy presenting themselves in a distinctive way. So they take on that influence of the 4. They have a professional edge. They can experience inner confusion and dissonance because of the 4's influence. So the 3 takes on personas and is trying to achieve and accomplish. And then the 4 kind of makes them question some of that, makes them question, like, am I a phony? What is authentic? So it just provides a little bit of just inner dissonance to be aware of. They can be more in touch with their feelings, sensitive, artistic, emotionally intense. They work carefully on crafting the right image. They're not as driven to be stars as a 3-wing 2, but they can be a little bit more pretentious.
So who are some famous 3s?
So some famous 3s are, these are all big players. Augustus Caesar, Tom Cruise, Taylor Swift. We have Condoleezza Rice, Oprah Winfrey, Lady Gaga, Paul McCartney, Madonna, Emperor Constantine, Reese Witherspoon, Kevin Spacey, Michael Jordan, Will Smith, Tiger Woods, Mitt Romney, and Bernie Madoff. So you can kind of see it cuts across, and I kind of pulled out the ones that I was more familiar with. There's so many out there, but you can see that just across, any any basically area, you have threes that, are succeeding and accomplishing a lot.
Yeah.
I'm
laughing because, in the midst of celebrities, which are fine, nothing wrong with being a celebrity, but in the midst of celebrities, you have Augustus Caesar and Emperor Constantine. That's pretty fun.
Right.
I recently asked Reese Witherspoon on Instagram if she would also like to drop by our podcast and do 120-second, career advice.
What'd she say?
So she didn't answer me back yet.
We love Reese.
But Reese, if you're out there and you decide to, one of your people decide to listen to this, I really want you to just 120 seconds. Just tell us your best career advice.
Just 120 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to hang out longer, that would be awesome too.
Yeah.
She seems like a fun person to hang out with.
Yes. Okay. So the growth point for Enneagram 3s, the healing message 3s need to hear is that you are loved just for who you are. An important practice for 3s to establish is taking time for solitude and stillness. Because you spend so much time working, achieving, and being productive, you need time to step away from the work and the checklist, to rest, to check in with yourself, and to process your own feelings separate from anyone or anything else. So that's probably the biggest challenge for 3s. And each one of these growth points are hard for that number to step into, because basically you're working on something that's hard for you, to just help you kind of stretch as a person and practice self-care and wholeness. I
was going to say, because it's the same with the 2s, self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the 3s, self-care. Mm-hmm. I know as an 8, self-care. And I think that is so hard in our current culture, where there's this race for productivity. Even creativity has become a productivity activity, right? Mm-hmm. What kind of content do we produce and put out on social media? If you get a coloring book, that's supposed to be relaxing, how much of that did you color or not color? And it's just really interesting to me how hard it is. I mean, maybe this is me personally bringing my own thing into this, but listening to you talk about this with 3s and talking about it with 2s, how hard it is to actually stop and be still, to know yourself. And so what's happened with me is this is a slower season for us just in work level. Mm-hmm. And Thanksgiving week was really slow, and I got lots of sleep and lots of rest, and I actually feel really great. Mm-hmm. But I'm having these moments where I feel really great, and I'm I should be doing something.
Yeah.
Right. Something should be happening. And I have to it's like a constant reminder of myself, no, it's really okay that nothing actually is happening right this moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say that 3s experience that, the difficulty in allowing for downtime, the tendency even on vacation to take work with them. Another challenge for 3s is to challenge your idea of success. Does it align with your feelings, dreams, and values? Will it feel successful no matter what happens? It's important for 3s as they continue on their self-awareness journey to really check in with themselves, even though that's hard, even though that means that you may have to take some time to get quiet and still and set your goals and checklist down to really just check in with how you're feeling. That profession, that career that you're in, that you're working so hard at, do you enjoy it? Does it give life to you deep down? If whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish comes crashing down, what is something that will help you feel successful no matter what? That's very important. I was in a different seminar with a 3, and he was talking about the success ladder. And he said that, you can find yourself working your entire life headed up the success ladder, and you don't want to find at the end of it that you put it on the wrong building. So that's an important call, probably to all of us, but I would say especially to 3s is to really check in with what is deep down going to be very fulfilling for your life. And another challenge is to focus in on some close friends and a support system that you can be your most vulnerable self with. Someone who will love you no matter what, even on the down days, even on the days when you don't feel like you're winning or when whatever you are working on is just a complete disaster. You need those support people in your life. You are naturally kind of magnetic. You have a lot of people around you, and you may find that you have a lot of friends, but just make sure that you have that really core support system for you. Oh, and I did want to say one other thing that Jeremy mentioned. Our culture is a very 3 culture. America is a 3 country. We really hold that up as a standard. So I realized that is kind of swimming against the current. Everything about America applauds your productivity and your strong hustle. But we also want to affirm that you need that time for self-care.
Here's the 3 artwork by Lauren Phoenix. Well, I'm not a good sign holder. There we go.
Let's change that language, buddy. Sign holding is not my best quality.
That's right. Self-compassion.
Are you looking for some custom creativity to incorporate into your spaces? Whether you need some inspirational art for your home, office, wedding, or event invitations, look no further than Lauren Phoenix Design. Lauren Phoenix is an Atlanta-based visual artist and illustrator. Lauren sells prints and digital downloads of all kinds, including a whole series on the Enneagram. In addition to illustrations, Lauren Phoenix also offers custom jackets, branding, t-shirt designs, tattoo designs, and more. Her inspiring work can be found online at laurenphoenixdesign.com.
All right. So this is exciting. The last number for today.
Oh, this is exciting, but this is also, holy cow, this is vulnerable to talk about your own number.
Christie was working on the podcast script for yesterday, and at the end of the day, I walked into the team room, and basically is like, "Hey, how's it going?"
Super upbeat.
Yeah, super upbeat, and not realizing that she's just diving really deep into her own number.
Yeah, like that was my last one that I was working on, and yeah, it's just a lot.
So tell us what it's like to be a 4.
All right. So our third party goer that we met
Christie,
in the cozy corner.
We think you're a 10.
Oh, thanks. Yay. And I'll go ahead.
If you keep saying the same joke, it gets funny, right?
It
That's
does.
What I hear.
It gets funnier. So this is the 4 artwork. This is how I discovered Lauren. I think I found it on probably Instagram, and I started following her. But I love her.
And you hold that sign fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, I
can't even say that right. I wasn't sure if fantastically is a word. That's why I paused.
Yeah. It's the adverb. Yeah. You hold that fantastically.
You can add ly to anything, right?
Truly.
I don't know about that.
Lee.
No, I don't think you can.
Lee?
Pizza Lee?
You can try.
I don't know.
Okay. So
I was going to say, if you're a listener, this is where you need to check out the podcast on YouTube so you can see these signs that are being held up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And check out Lauren Phoenix because she's got beautiful artwork.
Yes, she do.
So we've got our Enneagram 4 called the Romantic or the Individualist. 4s are said to be the most complex and rare of the Enneagram types, which as a 4 I love because I want to be unique.
That's what makes you a 10.
So I love that it was the most rare and complex. That really makes me happy inside. All right. So what it feels like to be a 4. And some of these I've kind of paraphrased from The Road Back to You. I've kind of put in a few of my own. So, I would definitely recommend that book. There's checklists that, for every chapter, for every number, and they can just be really helpful. All right, number 1, I like things that are different, unique, dramatic, and refined. I am not a fan of mainstream or the ordinary. I've never quite felt like I belonged. Deep down, I feel like a misfit. I often feel self-conscious and have a hard time finding my place in a room. I have so many feelings every day, it's hard for me to know which ones to pay attention to. People say I'm too intense and my emotions overwhelm them. I am proud to be unique and original. I worry that I will be abandoned and left alone. I often feel misunderstood, and that frustrates me. I get caught up trying to help others understand me. I find meaning and beauty in almost anything around me. Aesthetics are not only important to me, they are essential. I'm artistic or highly creative. I have so many ideas, but struggle with executing them or sticking with things I'm not good at. Sometimes I disappear and go radio silent for a while. In relationships, I pull people in and then push people away, often without realizing it. In social situations, I hang back and wait for people to come to me. I'm comfortable with melancholy and sadness. I don't mind it. It irritates me when people tell me to cheer up. I enjoy sad songs and movies and sad stories. Any comment?
That is the truth.
I'm waiting to hear you say, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is so true. Like anything we watch, oh my gosh, that is so true. It's a rare occasion that I can get Christie to watch like a comedy or, or a sitcom series that's comical. So like I got her into, what's that?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine for a while. And I will sit there and bust out laughing, and she'll just watch it with no laughter.
I'll laugh every now and then.
It will sneak out, but it's let's watch the most tragic thing possible.
It's just what I'm drawn to. Anytime he leaves the house and I know I'm about to watch something, I told him I kind of need to make a list of good ideas for me to watch, because otherwise he'll come home and I'll have watched something that I probably shouldn't have watched.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing?
Because I'm so sad.
Yeah, I remember when I was reading the book, The Road Back to You, thinking I might be a 4 because that, like, I really love being in sad, dark places.
Yeah.
It's very
Which
comforting.
I don't know if that's like creatives, like maybe creatives have that, sense of.
Well, I do think it is comfort.
It is. It's a big black weighted blanket.
And depending on, how and why you're in that place, it can be comfort for any of us. Sometimes the most painful places to be are comfortable for us, and it's hard to move out of that comfort.
Yes.
And move to what's healthy, and can even feel out of body in some ways when you do move into the healthy. And so you revert back to what's most comfortable for you.
Yes. So absolutely. So regardless of your Enneagram type, Enneagram work is recognizing your wiring, embracing the beautiful parts. It's not about, growing past who you are. It's not about, letting go of everything that makes you who you are, but it's recognizing the beautiful things and then kind of moving into that healthy space of balance. So you push yourself into the things that are harder, Well,
when I love that when you read this list, and is that it helps, like when you read that list, I go, okay, yeah, that's Christie.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also thinking about different relationships in our past, like in ministry and just through our 21 years of marriage, and, how different people at different times have not felt comfortable with some of that stuff on the list as much as they haven't felt comfortable with some of the stuff on my list. And I think it was because they really didn't have the knowledge of like, no, that's just who you are. Like they were trying to create that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with you. That's who you are.
Right.
And I just think that that's really important for people to realize, that we are all made up very differently. And the sooner we could accept each other's differences and be okay in that space. Like, it's okay that you're sad. It's okay that I can be super happy.
Right.
And guess what? We've coexisted in a marriage for 21 years, making that work.
Yeah, absolutely. And he and I are definitely true opposites. Absolutely. Because with this wing 7, he is so full of joy. And, I
mean, even this morning coming to work was that, I'm laid back, cool, and you're feeling stress, anxiety.
And all the feelings. Yeah.
I think you said that in the car. I've got too many feelings going on. I can't deal with all of them. It's too many.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I like I mentioned, I think on the first episode, my favorite thing about the Enneagram, besides working towards wholeness, is learning to embrace who you are. There's this tendency for us to kind of think that there's some gold standard of being, and that we should all kind of try to find that mold, try to live up to that, standard, and, kind of, chisel and polish off, our rough spots. And then we'll all kind of be this similar gold standard person. But this is just this reminder that we are not wired to be the same person. And so, you can be a healthy expression of yourself, and not everybody's going to get that. What's funny is it was after I found out that I was a 4 that I dyed my hair this red and blue kind of ombre color. And I dyed my hair, different colors growing up, but they were always very safe and tame, because I think I was still trying to, in some way, fit in and belong. But when I learned that I was a 4, I don't know, there was just this whole healing process for me where I decided to give myself permission to do something fun and different that I'd never done before, and just really embrace that, what I'm created to be, this creative, artistic person. And, I don't always have to lean into the whole fitting in thing. It's okay for me to express, who I am.
That was the same reason why I dyed my hair platinum. It wasn't like let me go against the crowd or everybody else, but I was at such a sad point in my life. Like, I wanted just to do something fun.
Yeah.
That was just because it didn't have to have any rhyme or reason behind it, and so
I saw a meme that basically was a person talking to their therapist and going back and forth. And the person, the therapist was like, I see that you dyed your hair again. And they were basically like, so I guess things are not going well. And the person admits, that, basically, obviously things aren't going well because you keep dyeing your hair. And it was funny. But the truth is that, we sometimes have those stereotypes of like, oh, you dyed your hair, you must be crazy, or whatever. But the fun part, I think, in our journey was it was actually a symbol of healing. When we kind of gave ourselves permission to do a few things that were out of the box. It was like, oh, we were able to embrace more of ourselves.
Yeah, I actually really liked my blue hair.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we recommend it, if you ever, want to do something that's kind of liberating.
Yeah. Something else I want to say before you go on with Force 2, just talking about recognizing this is who you are and that is okay, is as a business leader, as a team leader, like this has really helped me because I know everybody's Enneagram number on our team and that collaborates with us. It's really helped me be a better leader to them. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of things that where in the past I probably would have said, as an 8, constant push. But if I'm working with a number like yourself and Jeb, that's not going to respond well,
Right.
Several months ago
for me.
Yeah, several months ago, I used the word push in a conversation with Jeb, and Jeb said back to me, he's like, all right, now use the word push. And so, which was actually a good signal for me
Maybe
to go
embrace, allow.
Yeah, well, and it was good for me to realize, oh, I might be coming to he's reading this as like, I want this now, and I'm going to be, and coming at it with an intensity that is giving him anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, I can pull back because I'm not trying to give Jeb anxiety. That's the last thing I'm actually trying to do. Although I probably do it a lot.
Yeah, I think that's just an example of what self-awareness and social awareness can do. When you learn your number, you're learning self-awareness. But as you continue to learn the other numbers, it's not to kind of pigeonhole people, but if they say, yes, I am that number, it can be so helpful. That we have another 8 that works with us. And, it's pretty funny. We have 2 8s and 2 4s around the table in the staff meetings. And I would say the Enneagram has been essential in that, because otherwise that's a lot of intensity at a table.
And then we have Jeb, the 9, zooming in.
Yeah.
And I think this is why all of us you weren't on Tuesday's meeting, Jeb, but they're so excited that you're coming here to see us.
Yay.
And
everyone missed you. They're like, no, we want Jeb.
There is a heart on the calendar with your name in it.
Yes.
And what's funny about it is, right, because you're the 9 and you see the perspectives of everyone, like you bring that calming.
Oh, immediately. Like as soon as you log on, it's like this chill that, just like this like nice, calm effect.
No pressure then, I guess, for when I travel up there next week.
No worry.
You'll bring the chaos.
No worry.
random chaos.
Hey, Jeb, you're a 10.
You're a 10. Well, I was going to say a minute ago when you said you probably give me a lot of anxiety, the fact that we do all share our Enneagram and are, open and trying to be self-aware really takes the edge off of what might normally trigger me, because I'm able to really see like, oh, that's a Jeremy thing. It's not about me. It's easier for me to just kind of slough it off and say, well, not my, what is the saying? Like, not my monkeys, not my zoo, or something like that. I just say like, yep, it's not my problem, Yeah,
99.9% of what I say has nothing to do with anyone personally.
And I think that's
You're
true
just
for
trying
everybody.
to get it done. You're like,
my therapist is constantly saying like, it's never about you. Even when it's about you, it's not about you. So it's
absolutely.
Yeah.
As people, we take things way too personally.
Well, and I think what you're saying, Jeb, is like, basically the Enneagram gives us words. Like then we're able to communicate better and advocate better for ourselves, because you're able to say, hey, the way you're wording that is, a little intense, or, we've even, had, at our staff meeting, the acknowledgement like, oh, I'm being an 8, or whatever. It just it gives words to kind of like diffuse some of the frustration and the tension.
Yeah. So what motivates you as a 4?
All right. So my core motivation is defined, 4's core motivation is defined to find themselves and their significance and to create an identity. So you could also say basically to find meaning and to understand themselves. So it's a lot about identity, I guess. So the core fear is to have no identity or personal significance. So.
Which is, seems opposed to the stance, right? Like, if your stance is withdrawing, but you fear not having, well, I guess it's personal significance, not within the vision of others. So
but that makes sense. That makes sense when I watch Christie in life and the tension she lives in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So when you kind of consider 4s and get to know 4s, we can in fact be a torture to ourselves. Like we do in fact do some things that are in direct conflict with what we need. So my stance is withdrawing. It's hilarious. Like we, I think, had been working or had a full day or something. And we got home and I was in my comfy clothes in like 1 minute flat. Like I had taken off like my like work clothes and was like about to get in my bed, not because I was going to sleep, but because I was just going to get cozy. And we just laughed about it because it was such a withdrawing thing to do. To be like, I've peopled, I've been out in the world, and there's nothing on earth that'll get me out of this bed or out of this house right now.
Yeah.
So, but you know, we do have this desire to like want to find significance and belonging, but we move away from that.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about one of our new friends that we had dinner with. That's a 4 in your cohort, and they were talking about a party that they were recently going to go to, and her husband actually told her just stay in bed for the day.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
That, and it helped her so that when she went to the party, she had the energy, she stayed withdrawed all day long to actually be engaged for the party.
Which that's a pro tip for withdrawing numbers. 4, 5, and 9.
So 4s get to just stay in bed.
Yeah, just take some time before you have to
That's
go.
your favorite spot.
People. Yeah, I would say.
So I will say that sometimes, like, well, you know, you can't just stay in bed all day.
And I give them a look like, says who?
Yeah.
So, okay. So the talk style is lament, which, you know, is
what does
funny
the word
and not
lament
funny.
actually mean?
So lament, goodness, I should have looked it up so that I had a very well, you know, articulated definition for it. What comes to mind is weeping, but it's the ability to, I guess, express sadness.
Okay, so, Google, define lament.
Oh, yeah, I got it. It's a passionate expression of grief or sorrow.
There you go. So,
a passionate expression of grief or sorrow.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I would say that that is not just the challenge of 4s. It is the beauty of 4s to experience the full range of emotion. And so we are okay with sadness. We are okay with the, you know, what some would call the negative emotions, just the hard emotions. We're able to have space for them. So, yeah, I would say the talk style very easily is lament.
So in a year like 2020, we should lean more into 4s because they can help us express the sorrow and the mourning of what we've lost this year.
Yes, I would say we should lean into balanced 4 energy. So a balanced 4 energy, you know, is to be able to sit with and hold the grief, to sit with and hold the disappointment, and just all of those sad things, the loss, and just acknowledge it, to allow yourself to feel it. This new therapist that I follow, somehow I end up following a lot of therapists on Instagram. I don't know what that says, but yeah, they make me smile, or, you know, I don't know, they help. But it's Tiffany Rowe, and she's really spunky, and she's got these new shirts that say therapy is cool and these new beanies, and I kind of want one. But her big thing is feel, deal, heal. And so too many times people kind of think, well, I don't really want to feel that, so I'm just not going to, or I'm just going to set it aside. But I think the 4 has the invitation to don't set it aside, because emotions are kind of like energy. It doesn't just dissipate. You know, you can't just bottle it up or put it on a shelf and think that you're not going to have to ever deal with it. You know, if you keep doing that, I think we all know that it doesn't go well.
Right.
So there's a lot of value to being able to sit with all of the feelings, to take time. And, you know, even in this 2020 year, to be able to acknowledge all of that so that we can move forward.
So what's it look like to be like a healthy 4 then? So
a healthy 4 has considerable emotional range. They're deeply creative, emotionally honest. They're connected, attuned to beauty. They're vulnerable, authentic, creatively productive. They're they're present, generous, they foster authenticity and vulnerability in others, they're empathetic, they're accepting and inclusive, collaborative, and they are more disciplined to focus and get things done. So this healthy space is where 4s want to kind of make a goal to lean into. We can very easily get frozen and so entrenched in our feelings that we don't push into the discipline of focusing and getting things done. But that is a picture of a 4 that is very balanced, is one that has harnessed their emotions and creativity to push into something beautiful and productive. So for other numbers, the call is to set productivity aside and to remember that your productivity is not your value. But the call for 4s is to lean into productivity, to not be afraid of it. When we are in a really, not even unhealthy space, but even really stressed, we can just freeze. And one positive way that you can unfreeze yourself and lean into that health space is to just do something, just work on one of those things on your list that you've been putting off, just one of those tedious, mundane
dishes, laundry.
Yeah, or
dinner.
Scheduling a dentist appointment. Like, I can't tell you how long I avoid making appointments just because I find it so...
Well, and you don't like to talk to people.
I don't like calling people on the phone. I hate that. So that's just something that can just kind of help you.
That's funny too, because this morning, as we're walking down the stairs, you're like, "Are you going to call the coffee shop?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah, he oh man, for a while now, he will not let me get away with it, and he tries to, encourage me to like make my phone calls. So that's adulting for you. All right. So in the average space, there's the struggle to accept themselves as they are, exaggerate their uniqueness, can be coy with others, and play hard to get, melancholy, they withdraw from others. They can be moody, melodramatic, self-pitying, needy, creatively distracted. So if you notice, like I have 3 kind of descriptors. In the healthy space, it's creatively productive. So using your creativity to actually, produce and move forward with something. But in the average space, you're just kind of creatively distracted. You're kind of, starting a lot of projects, but maybe not finishing them. Over-identifying. We have that ability to kind of over-identify. Even in studying the Enneagram, I identified really fast and really hard with being a 4. So we have to be careful about over-identifying with certain descriptors or whatever. We can be high maintenance, intense, and idealistic. So then in the unhealthy space, we've basically kind of pushed into so much emotion that we end up being manipulative and needy. We fall into that manipulative and needy space, and it's not intentional manipulation. All of these like unhealthy behaviors, most of them are subconscious. They're just these behaviors that we end up falling into to try to in some way take care of ourselves and to get what we need. So if you can kind of think about that with your own number, all of these things we end up doing unintentionally, subconsciously, to try to meet our own needs. But they can end up being in a negative way if we're not aware of them. So we can play the victim and look for a savior. We feel lacking. We can fall into being self-debasing, self-torturing, envious, jealous. So it's a strong jealousy, honestly, not really of material things, but it is a jealousy of people's happiness and what we perceive of as someone else having an easier time in life. We start to disconnect socially when we're really not okay. And like I said, with all of these numbers at the bottom of the unhealthy, there's some really unhealthy behaviors. So for 4s, it can be self-harming, being very codependent, self-sabotaging, depressed, unproductive, and even possessive. So, those are some of the darker spaces. So we, in these introductory episodes, we don't talk about the move to stress or security. That's kind of a more in-depth discussion, but something that you can be aware of in yourself is watching your healthy, average, and unhealthy behaviors and letting them be kind of like a check engine light. Like when I get to the really weepy stage, so I'm always emotional. Like that's every day of a 4's life. From the hour that I got up in the morning to the time I got in the car, I'd already experienced a bunch of emotions, like all through there. So that's neutral. That's just how you operate in life. But when I find myself in that really weepy, kind of needy space where I'm really pulling at people, and start to feel kind of like the victim, those are good check engine lights for me to say, oh, I'm leaning into some of my unhealthy behaviors because I've exhausted myself, or I need time to process my feelings, or maybe I've peopled too much and I really need to pull back. So, makes sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So what's the wings?
So we've got the wings. We've got the 4-wing 3. Pulls in the achiever performer's energy from the 3. And it's called the aristocrat. They want to be the most unique and the best. The energy is competitive, image conscious, able to dial back emotional intensity and quirkiness to be more socially acceptable, more outgoing, overly dramatic, more productive, turning dreams and ideas into reality, and more frequent mood swings. So I've met more 4s since I started learning about the Enneagram than growing up. I just wasn't surrounded by 4s at all. But it's interesting now when I meet 4s, you can really tell a difference. Now, not everybody resonates with a wing, but the ones that really lean into, I'm a 4-wing 5, which we'll talk about in a minute, but the 4-wing 3s are just a very different flavor than a 4-wing 5. So it's interesting. The 4-wing 3s are the ones that are more obviously artistic and creative because they're the ones that are really pushing out into the world. And that doesn't mean if you're a 4-wing 5 that you can't be a talented artist or, make a living as an artist. There's plenty that do, but it's just interesting to me that they use that 3 energy to really move their creativity into the world and into the public space. So that's kind of fun to see. And they really can be more outgoing in their energy. The 4-wing 5 is the bohemian. They're more introverted and unconventional, very concerned with uniqueness. Less need to be noticed or have an audience, but they're quietly different and often eccentric. So, when I'm talking to somebody that's more of the 4-wing 3, there's just a very different energy than for me. I tend to be very quiet, hold back, very introspective, but I have plenty of creativity. With the 5 energy, I do a lot of research and a lot of preparation for things, but then I'll hold myself back. The 5 has a tendency to get stuck too. So the 4 and the 5, we have to be aware that we can get really stuck. We can get into that gear of trying to over prepare for things and be afraid that we won't be good at something and then just not do it. So, that's something to be aware of. Cron and Stabile say, 4s envy the normalcy, happiness, and sense of comfort with which others seem to move through life. They instantly spot who has a more interesting life, a happier family or childhood story, a better job, superior taste, a more privileged education, more distinguishing clothes, or unrivaled artistic talent. This envy, coupled with their pervasive sense of irredeemable deficiency, launches 4s on a never-ending quest to find the missing piece without which they never feel at home in the world. Sadly, by fixating on what's missing, 4s are blind to what's present in their lives, namely the many wonderful qualities they already possess. And I really love that quote. We'll talk about it in a minute with the growth point, but it's really important for 4s. to realize that that thing that you're feeling like is missing is actually not missing.
So who are some famous fours?
So famous fours, this is a fun list. Edgar Allan Poe, Chopin, Van Gogh, Thomas Merton, Anne Frank, Anne Rice, Prince, Johnny Depp, Winona Ryder, Judy Garland, Leonard Cohen, Angelina Jolie, and the author of The Road Back to You, Ian Cron.
That's crazy because when you list those names out, like you can see it. Like,
yeah,
gosh, you're a sad group of people.
It's very Tim Burton. But not necessarily sad. They're just very deeply feeling, very expressive. When you see the exhaustive list, it's just like so many artists on there. But I'm very curious to know which ones are 4-wing 3s and 4-wing 5s, because I would say a lot of the famous ones are 4-wing 3s.
Yeah, that's interesting.
All right. So the growth point for the Enneagram 4s, the healing message 4s need to hear is that there is nothing missing. Everything you need is already here. You can practice stepping back from your feelings. This is something that I've been learning, to separate yourself by saying, I am not my feelings, and these feelings will pass. We feel so many things every day, all day long. That is an important skill to learn to separate. And for 4s, sometimes that can seem almost impossible. But learning to kind of create that objectivity and healthy space will help you a lot.
Well, because you do feel all those feelings, like the I don't want to say the wrong feelings, but certain feelings can rob you of your energy for the feelings that you really do need to that do matter more.
Right.
I don't know if I said that well.
No, absolutely. We can because we're comfortable with the sad things, we can get stuck in the sadness because we're okay with it. We can listen to sad music all day long. We could listen, sit in a dark corner all day and listen to sad music. And that's not to stereotype 4s, but it's because we don't see a problem with melancholy or sadness. For us, it is an okay place to be. But I don't think any of us really want to spend our entire lives just sitting, in a corner with sad songs. I think we want to be able to kind of experience the full range of emotions and, move out into the world and, find places that we belong.
Too bad it's not the 90s. This would be a perfect spot to plug Smashing Pumpkins' Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. That's a great double album. I have a lot
of love for that album. That album basically got me through high school.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of love for that.
Fantastic.
My nickname in high school was Billy.
Yeah. I don't know, like if you zero in on his face, like imagine him like with no hair, and no glasses.
Leather pants.
It's pretty funny.
A silver shirt.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he is not a fan.
Oh,
so
I had one person in high school called me Billy. That was in a much different look time for me, but I could see it back then.
And you're like, yes, I have arrived.
I am Billy Corgan.
Oh, there's great songs. Anyway, so for 4s, along with learning to separate yourself from your feelings, another practice you can try is when emotions are overwhelming, try the practice of journaling out your feelings. This may be just intuitive to you. Maybe all 4s journal their feelings already. But you can consider how you can creatively express your feelings. Can you paint them or pour them into a poem? Channel them and express them, but don't become lost in them. One idea is just try setting a timer to remind yourself to step back into life, because we can get lost in our work or expression. So another thing is to instead of feeling stuck in your feelings or remembering the past, consider what next good step you can take. What is your next step forward? Jeremy's kind of like my personal coach, where he is constantly, kind of reminding me, okay, well, what's one step that you can move forward in? Another key thing that I wanted to mention for fours is to develop a gratitude practice. And this is great for everybody, obviously. But because we can get stuck in what's missing and feel the sad things, when you develop the gratitude practice, you're able to bring yourself into the present and see the beauty. We have the ability to find beauty in everything. So take the time to find beauty in this present moment, not just, the ideal of, somewhere out there, but what is beautiful right around you. And also to be careful with comparison. I think all of us have to be careful with comparison, but somebody recently made a list of their favorite attributes of me, and that actually meant a lot. So I would encourage you to make a list of some of your best attributes and put it somewhere that will remind you for all the low days of where you feel like something's missing. But you can also ask a good friend or a partner to give you a few ideas. And if they agree to make a short list for you, I promise you it'll be a treasure, because that is a great reminder.
I feel like I did not make this list.
You didn't, but you have given me cards over the years.
Check. Christmas card this year. Make attributes that I like about Christie.
Step 1 is to find the other person's list and copy it or one-up it.
That's right.
Right. Shine it up.
But what you need to know is you're already a 10.
Thanks.
That's my joke.
All right. That's great. That's all really good stuff. That's a lot to process.
Yeah.
You're a lot to process.
After the it's true, man. After these Enneagram sessions, it's kind of like, whew, okay, I got to step back and think about all this.
You are going to need a fun episode.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, speaking of episodes, so we've got one more Enneagram episode coming, which will cover the last 3 numbers. Mm-hmm. And that very well may be our last podcast show for this year. We've talked about doing a fun one. We'll decide whether that happens or not. But you know what we're not going to do? We're not going to be overproductive or push or make ourselves do something we don't just have to do.
This year's already been a lot.
Yeah. So if there's joy in doing it and there's time in doing it, then we'll do it. But actually, this is a really busy season for Jeb. So
it is.
We may just eat cookies with Jeb.
Yeah. We could do a podcast, just us sitting around eating cookies.
Do the Career Brand Story cookie review. Yeah, if you haven't noticed, it's taking a little bit longer than usual to get these things published. And it is because it's a busy season for photographers, even ones like me who don't really photograph family portraits and stuff. So it's just been really busy. But we'll get back on track. So excited for the last Enneagram one to come out. And it's been, for this being our first season of podcast, it has been a blast. And what I will tell you is that we have decided on the theme for next year. And I'm super excited about that. In fact, the team is gathering next week. We're going to be doing a lot of creative brainstorming and talking about that and focus with what we talked about on the podcast. And so that's really exciting. Already got some great guests that we're thinking about lining up, like Reese Witherspoon, like Taylor Swift, and who's the other person we mentioned?
Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton. Yeah. So like those guests would, if they want to stop by, it'd be really awesome.
Bucket list.
That's our bucket list. But
right there.
Yeah.
It is a triad. Yeah. But we do have some great things that are going to come. So make sure you come on back and tune in for those. We'll be announcing the giveaway from Lauren Phoenix this week. That should be coming out. I guess today's Thursday when we're recording this, so it should be happening today or tomorrow. But you'll find that out on Instagram. We've started a new giveaway. So my 12-week career coaching program. So let me talk about this for a minute if I can plug that. That's 12 weeks of career coaching, 7 personalized coaching sessions, the career brand story method of your resume, your LinkedIn, career branding, your story pitch. It's doing helping you put together a job network strategy, referral network strategy. It's helping you put a career direction plan together and even interview coaching. It's all jam-packed in those 12 weeks. The people who went through that 12-week coaching program in 2019, 100% of them found jobs in 12 weeks. The people who've gone through it in 2020, a little different story, but still really great results in that they're still landing jobs within a 6-month period, which statistically is where they should be. And so what we've done is we've offered that 50% off. And so you can register now. That sale price is only good until December 31st. And then you sign up before the 31st, and then we start January 1. And so if you're one of those people who don't have a plan together, or you haven't taken a time to go, you know what, I need to put a plan together. This is the coaching program that helps you put the plan together so that you can land your dream job and do what you love. You do not have to walk into 2021 being miserable. I just want people to process that and think about that.
Yay.
2020 was bad. 2021 can be different. It's your turn to do something different, but it usually takes a plan, and I'll help you put that plan together and get there. But that being said, I've got 10 spots open for that. All right. But here's the really cool thing. We're giving that 12-week coaching program away to someone who has been unemployed or furloughed and has had a really, really difficult time here in 2020. So we put that out on Instagram. We're taking that post down and putting a new post because what we realized is maybe you don't want to put someone's name down on Instagram or in LinkedIn of like, hey, this person really deserves it because they're so down on their luck.
Right.
And so we're kind of reworking that so that you can just direct message us. You can email us and let us know if you know someone who really could use that. We want it to really go to someone who really could use it, who really deserves it and needs just that, leg up in life. And we'd love to give that to them. So we're taking those nominations to give that free program away. It's valued at $2,000. So we're going to choose that on Christmas Day. So, if you nominate someone and get chosen, I mean, you just essentially gave someone a $2,000 Christmas gift.
Ooh.
Yay.
That's pretty impressive.
I've never done that.
Yeah. So that post is going to go back up. You can check that on Instagram and follow me at Jeremy T. Tudor on Instagram. And again, while many of you do listen to this podcast, because that's what a podcast is for, you can also watch each episode on YouTube. Just search Jeremy Tudor, our career brand story, to find us. And Christie, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at starryeyedv, VIE.
All right. And then Jeb, starting tomorrow, is going to be out in his town's park taking pictures, wonderful holiday pictures of everybody. So we know where you're going to be, but if we can't make it to the park to say hello, where can we find you?
I think that's the only place you can find me is in the park. That's just where I'm going to be living. No, I will be on
Under
Instagram.
the bridge?
Yeah. Under the bridge downtown. I'm going to be at JebGraff, JEBBGRAFF on Instagram, and same handle everywhere else.
And if you don't follow Mr. Goodbooth on Instagram, you should follow that. And if you are a party organizer, if you're a 3 in your organization and you're in charge of putting your Christmas holiday party together, you should talk to Jeb about Mr. Goodbooth's virtual experience.
Hey, thanks for the plug. Yeah, that's MR Goodbooth. All one word. It's not really a word, but that's how you find it.
And that's a really great opportunity for like our virtual life right now with trying to figure out the holidays.
Yeah, we've had some successful virtual boothing, and it's really cool. It's really interesting. It's one of those innovations that's come out of this mess, which is pretty cool. So check it out, MrGoodbooth.com. Yeah.
All right, so everyone, come on back for the last episode in the Enneagram, and most likely for a career brand story for this year, and keep thriving.
If you're interested in advertising your business on our podcast, we advertise for local and national companies. Contact McCay at careerbrandstory.com for more information. That's MCCAY at careerbrandstory.com.